Welcome to the Software People Stories. I'm Shiv.
I'm Chitra,
And I'm Gayatri.
We bring you interesting, untold stories of people.
associated with the creation
Or consumption of software-based solutions.
You'll hear stories of what worked.
and sometimes what didn't,
You will also hear very personal experiences.
and insights that would trigger your thoughts.
And inspire you to do even greater things.
Before we jump into today's conversation, a special thanks to PM Power Consulting for encouraging and supporting this show right from the start. With over 1,000 person years of collective experience, PM Power has helped many organizations, teams, and individuals chart out their own journeys of excellence and make progress. Thank you, PM Power. Now, let's move to today's episode. This is episode number 363 of the Software People Stories podcast. What does that signify? Next week, episode 364 will mark 7 years of 52 weeks, which is episode number 364. As we reach our 7th year milestone, we will have a special episode with all the co-hosts sharing some things with you. But this time, I want to introduce a brand new podcast from PM Power, a sibling podcast to the Software People Stories called the Full Stack Leadership Cast, which is hosted by my colleague, Dr. Krishna Prasad. Yeah, hi, KP. Welcome to the Software People Stories.
Hi, Shiv. Good to be back and good morning. And I'm glad that you use the word sibling, but I recognize that you're already 7-year-old in Software People Stories. And so this is still a very, very, infant who was just kind of born. But I'm glad to be here.
Okay. Is that something to disarm the elder sibling from the sibling rivalry?
No, I always, kind of admire the elder sibling because, running a podcast continuously for 7 years, bringing a variety of guests from across the world is no mean task. And, after doing the first season of my own leadership cast, I recognize that, okay, it is daunting, but it's also fun. I must say it's also fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we get into some of those, I
Yeah.
know when and how did the podcasting bug bite you?
Oh, okay. Well, actually, I got bitten by the podcast bug fairly early. And I must say that you were an inspiration because I
Right.
kept on hearing you saying that, oh, I spoke to this person and, it was an interesting topic, etc. So I was always thinking, hey, look, it's good to be like talking to somebody, right? I wouldn't call it interview, but just, talking to somebody. But the topic also, I think, emerged, last couple of years since we were doing this. So I thought, okay, it's a good time to kind of dive in. And to be honest, uh, though it was bothering me for a long time, but at some point of time, I said, okay, let me just start. And then, okay, I mean, so far so good. Done a few episodes.
Yeah, wonderful. And congratulations for
Yeah.
completing the first season.
Yes, thank you.
So why podcast? You have been doing consulting,
Yeah.
coaching, training, writing blogs, articles, all that. But why podcast?
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's a good question. And yeah, I mean, a podcast is one kind of content, I would say. A little bit more engaging because there is voice, there is more emotion because it's a conversation, and you can bring in a little bit more, this element of connect. But I also recognize that a lot of people now are comfortable in listening, whether it's an audio book or a podcast, or of course, music has always been there. When I was talking to several of the leaders whom we interact with, etc., most often they would say, hey, look, they're listening to a podcast when they're driving to office or something. So I said, oh, okay, maybe that's a medium which I can try.
Okay. So what is the general format that
Yeah.
you want to adopt?
Yeah. So I've been telling myself, and of course, I listen to many of your episodes, and I was kind of convinced that it should not be like a rigorous Q&A interview kind of format.
Mhm.
And then when I reach out to potential guests, I always tell it's a candid conversation format.
Oh,
And
wonderful.
yeah, it's a very candid conversation, I must say. I don't know how the conversation will take shape. Even the guest probably will not know. But the spontaneity has kind of worked. The way I saw it, spontaneity has worked. And a lot of times there are aha moments, even for the guest, I must say. And for me, of course, there is a lot of aha moment. Yeah.
So at least some of the listeners of the Software People Stories may not be
Yeah.
familiar with this concept of full stack leadership.
Okay.
They're
Okay.
probably
Yeah.
more familiar with full stack developer.
Yeah.
So can you explain what this full stack leadership is?
Yeah. Okay. No, I think that's a great question. And so this within PM Power, of course, you are also involved, and several of our colleagues, last 4 years, uh, we wanted to make sure that we come up with an idea of a holistic leadership development. And of course, like we work with a lot of so-called software-centric companies, technology companies, and they're familiar with what they call as full stack developer, as you said. And in our leadership model, there are essentially three layers, the way we see it. And the first layer is what we call as every leader should be able to create impact on business.
Hmm.
And that layer is what we call as the visible part. And we map it to our own, like an iceberg model. So the visible part of the leadership stack is creating impact on business because people are able to see it. But then we also highlight that to be an effective leader, there are two other layers of the stack, which is kind of hidden, within the water, as we say. The middle layer is how a leader can influence people, and people from the different stakeholder categories. It could be their own team members, it could be their manager, their senior management, the peers, customers. So it's a wide variety of stakeholders that they need to influence. And then deep within the bottommost layer is what we call as leading self.
Mhm.
And then what we try to convey to our leaders is we cannot ignore one layer for the other,
Okay.
and all the three layers have to come in harmony so that they can become a better leader to create impact on business. So that's why we came up with this idea that, okay, it's a full stack leadership.
Oh, wonderful. Really nice. But does this mean that this is only for people who are playing managerial roles?
Okay, no. So when I launched this podcast, I had in mind that, okay, I talk to senior business leaders
Mhm.
and get their knowledge nuggets, get their kind of thoughts around different aspects of leadership. But the listener audience, I want to make sure that the middle management, or first time managers who are aspiring to get to senior leadership within a couple of years, few years, what how they can develop the skills along these three layers. So it's essentially focused on middle management and
Okay.
how they can become better leaders.
Okay.
So I think that's the whole idea.
What about individual contributors? Some of
Mhm.
them, even though they have a responsibility to influence, let's say, a whole platform or
Yeah.
product or
Yeah.
technology,
Mhm. Yeah.
are these concepts applicable for them also?
Yeah. Again, Shiv, that's a great question. This is something which keeps coming back. And before I answer this question, I would like to recollect one of my first guests. He's currently the CTO of HPE,
Mhm.
and he started his career as sales.
Oh,
And then, of course, he moved into consulting, and then, of course, he became a CTO.
mhm.
And so a lot of leaders whom we talk to, they are senior technology specialists, subject matter experts. They have reached very high kind of leadership positions. But one of the limiting belief, what we call, is they say, look, all this full stack leadership probably is not applicable to me. But when we highlight that leading self, you don't need to, leading self is leading self. So without being effective as a self, then obviously, that person cannot become a good leader. Then we say, look, a subject matter expert should be able to influence a variety of stakeholders. Maybe they don't have a team to deal with, their own so-called reporting team to deal with, but obviously they have a lot of peers, maybe project managers, program managers, product managers, where their technology, design, architecture have to, come together. Of course, they cannot forget customers. They cannot forget their senior management because they are the sponsors. So we say, look, if you have to be effective as a subject matter expert, technology expert, you have to be able to get comfortable with a variety of stakeholders. And that's an important skill. And then we keep highlighting to many of these technology specialists that technology cannot live in isolation. It has to be able to create impact on business, unless they are in a research field or, whatever. So, but typically we deal with, our corporate clients, and people are within a corporate setup. And so they should be able to ensure that technology is able to contribute to business. So, but a lot of times you have seen this turnaround in many of these people and say, okay, now I understand. To become effective, okay, what do you mean by this full stack leadership skill?
So you talked about your first guest from sales who became a CTO. I'm sure there would have been a lot of these transitions and how they kind of took all those things. You want to share some highlights about the season 1 that has concluded in terms of the profiles of the guests or the kind of topics that were taken up?
Yeah,
And
sure.
of course, if you can recall any interesting nuggets, takeaways from any of those.
Yeah, okay. This interesting nuggets, of course, is a stumping question because I need to think about.
Okay.
But I have had I was fortunate to get some fantastic guests from a variety of domains. So as I mentioned, one is a CTO of HP. I got a vice president from software compute platform from a commercial vehicle company. One incidentally was a former CTO of an automotive very large setup, but right now he's a chairman of a startup doing some amazing things. One was a very I must say young who was in a traditional industry, but then he took a major call to go and do a full-time management degree in MIT Sloan. Investing. He said, yeah, it was an investment. And then it completely changed his trajectory because he joined Bain Consulting. And from Bain Consulting, then he became, like a senior vice president in a hot startup with a consumer orientation. So I was fortunate to get some of these, very experienced senior business leaders. A couple of nuggets. In fact, we were talking about sense of urgency in today's business, because that's one thing which we keep hearing from everybody. And how fast people want, kind of solutions, results, etc. And in one of the conversations, this person said, hey, today we are having a conversation with a customer, and before the coffee gets cold, the customer expects a solution. I thought that was a fantastic nugget. So that was one. Then there was another guest who talked a lot about procrastination. If a leader in a company, procrastinates, not able to come to a decision because either they're uncomfortable with the amount of information available,
Mhm.
or they're uncomfortable with the volatility, uncertainty, he says that kills companies. You
Mhm.
know, so of course there is always this thing that sometimes they may be lucky that not making a decision, maintaining status quo could be okay, but
Mhm.
most often he said procrastination generally, kills companies, and people, leaders especially,
Yeah.
should get comfortable around volatility and uncertainty, right? And just one more nugget, I got reminded. So one of the guests said, today leadership is more about optionality. Need to be able to look at options in front of you
Mm.
and be able to, make a decision about the option.
Yeah.
But he used a very interesting thing, especially when you're possibly switching domains and taking a different trajectory, from one kind of a role to a completely different role.
Mm.
He says many times you should treat that as sunk cost. Whatever experience you gained, that's okay, that's good, but don't keep on looking back and said, oh, I have done this, and I've done this kind of decision. Because if you're joining a very young industry or a completely new technology domain, he says it's better to keep looking ahead to make decisions. So I thought that is a fantastic knowledge nugget.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
certainly agree.
yeah.
I've been listening to all the episodes, and every time there are uh, takeaways that these guests bring in with their
Okay.
practical experience. So it is not
Yeah,
just all just theory.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
something that I like
Hmm.
about the podcast with that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
one question is,
Hmm.
okay, now that season one is over,
Yeah.
uh, do you want to get guests only from IT, or are you also thinking of getting, when you talk about leaders,
Yeah.
uh, do we have the concept of full stack leadership applicable beyond IT?
Yeah. Okay. No, I think that's a good question. In fact, the full stack leadership, I intend to get leaders from all domains and not necessarily IT. Of course, maybe there is a little bit more familiarity with IT and tech
Mm.
industry, but I don't want to restrict it to this industry. In fact, when I launched the podcast and the introduction, when I told my audience, I said I would definitely love to talk to senior business leaders from across industries and domains,
Mhm.
and also I would love to talk to professors from business schools.
Oh.
And also, I'm thinking that I want to talk to a few leaders from the non-profit
Mm.
organizations,
Mhm.
because one of the key things is learning from unusual sources.
Mm.
So a leader from a profit can always, gain some knowledge from a leader from a non-profit, because they work with far more constraints and, very difficult kind of, scenarios. So to answer your question, definitely I would love to talk to leaders from all across.
Yeah, I like that, learning from
Yeah,
unusual sources. I think
yeah,
whenever you do that, I think that's where breakthrough ideas
uh-huh,
come in.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, One question, if you want to, I mean, this is an optional question, share anything about what's in store in the next season.
Okay. It's not yet clear in my mind. So there were a couple of things. So one is I got some feedback from a few listeners. One is typically my episodes are in the range of 45 to 50 minutes.
Okay.
And I was debating with myself at the beginning whether that's the right duration, should I make it shorter, etc. But somehow all the episodes turned out to be about 45, 50 minutes. So
Mhm.
one of the key things which I'm, constantly asking myself is, should I reduce the duration?
Mm.
Somebody said, hey, look, it should be not more than 20, 25 minutes and so on. But there was other, a couple of listeners, they said, oh, like I travel to my office and generally I listen to your podcast, and it is 45 minutes is good for me because I need to travel for 1 hour. But maybe that's less number of people. So
Mm.
one thing which I'm asking myself is 45 minutes, good, or should I kind of reduce it? right? The second interesting comment came was I should be able to summarize in the episode itself some of the key takeaways, which I do it only in show notes and not necessarily in part of the episode. That puts a little bit more pressure and so on. But that was a good, kind of insight which I got. The third thing is the set of guests whom I got was all from India. But I have this big, kind of ambition that, okay, this hopefully 50% of my guests can they be from a global, environment.
Okay.
So I want to somehow do that in season 2.
Oh, wonderful. A
Yeah.
lot of exciting things.
Yeah.
Looking forward to all that.
Mhm.
Just a couple of thoughts more from the elder sibling.
Yeah, sure.
On the second one that you mentioned about having a summary of what the highlights is something that we've been trying to do.
Mhm.
And on the first one, we've experimented with, as you know, different durations. Initially, we thought 15 to 20 minutes. Beyond that, keeping somebody's attention, all that. Then tried to kind of do it around 25 minutes. It may extend to 30 minutes. But then what we realized was that if you want to have a natural conversation, sometimes you get a little deeper.
Yeah.
And we also started playing with splitting one conversation into 2 episodes,
Okay.
which requires a little more bit of a planning.
Mhm.
And sometimes it happens naturally. Sometimes if you kind of force it, then for the next episode, kind of remind them.
Yeah.
But then the feedback that we've got is that it doesn't matter even if it's a little longer, as long as the thing is not lost. I can always pause and then resume.
Yeah.
And many people kind of download and then they play as they have on their favorite podcast player.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
So with that, where can someone listen to your podcast? Where is it available?
Okay. So, it is generally available in all the major podcast, platforms. It's available on Spotify. It's available on YouTube, Amazon Music. We had some technical challenge with Apple Podcasts, but we'll fix that for definitely next season, and maybe even the current season should be available on Apple Podcast. So these are the 4 big platforms. But it's also available on PM Power website. So directly one can go to my leadership podcast page and start listening to all the episodes. So it's pretty easy to kind of find.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
On that note, thanks a lot, KP, for at a very short notice before the coffee got cold. I guess we
Yes.
probably finished this conversation.
Sure.
And I'm sure the listeners to Software People Stories would love these nuggets from the leaders.
Absolutely. No, I think Shiv, it has been a pleasure for me also. And again, congratulations on running your podcast for 7 years. And as I mentioned in the beginning, you and Chitra and Gayatri, the podcast hosts, have been an inspiration, and it made me kind of take the plunge. But of course, I also probably look for an opportunity to jointly host, maybe a couple of leaders. Maybe a couple of episodes in the future. It was great talking to you.
Yeah, wonderful, and
Yeah.
all the best once again. And
Okay.
thanks a lot, KP.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
We thank Siddharth for the music and Anita for promoting the Software People Stories.
If you like this episode,
Please subscribe on your favorite podcast client.
And spread the word in your network.
if you'd like to share your story,
Contact us at podcasts@pm-powerconsulting.com.